President, delegates and guests, Linda Gray, District 33, proposing the Scotland 2C motion. Little did I realise back in October when Victor, who is seconding, and I sat and drafted this motion for consideration by the Scottish Executive that it would come to be debated at a time when Scottish teachers' conditions of service were under such threat and make its objectives so resoundingly necessary. It was drafted before the Scottish Government announced its budget, and the areas we mentioned specifically were those we thought might be targeted by our employers: support assistance, continuing professional development and class contact time. Our crystal ball gazing wasn't entirely wrong. Cuts in spending were inevitable. We knew that, and each and every council was busily producing budgets showing cuts across all sectors. The burden of loss was to be shared by all, including education, or so we thought. On the morning of the Scottish budget in November last year, it was announced that the Scottish Government had reached agreement with COSLA, the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, to implement a package of changes to teachers' conditions of service. This agreement was struck to ensure that the Government's budget was accepted. The changes proposed amounted to nothing less than a full-scale assault on each and every teacher in Scotland, regardless of gender, age or sector. We were being asked by those with whom we supposedly negotiate to accept a 2-year pay freeze, a freeze on entry to the Chartered Teacher Scheme, an increase in class contact time for probationers from 0.7 to 0.82, a very strange figure, but it equates to 18.5 hours, the loss of conserved salaries, annual leave to be designated school closure for 26 of the 66 days in order to avoid accrued leave rights for those on maternity, amongst other long-term absences, and supply teachers to be paid on the first point of the pay scale for the first 5 days of any cover and only for 25 hours a week, rather than for a full 35-hour week. These are the totally unacceptable terms currently being offered to us. These are the revised terms that have come about through further negotiation. A war of words has taken place, with both sides blaming each other, and we are no further forward. One of our sister unions initially opposed the offer, and their recommendation to members to reject was overwhelmingly supported, as was our recommendation to our members who were balloted, who also voted to reject. Our sister organisation is currently reballoting for a second time, and in the wink of an eye, their recommendation has changed from reject to accept. The revised offer that they are proposing accepting has only been changed through the change of supply teachers' hours, reducing the payment hours and increasing the sick leave absence entitlement, which was also part of the deal. You can work out how their members are feeling about it. We need in Scotland a formal legislated framework for negotiating, where teachers' terms and conditions are set in statute and not at the whim and fancy of uncaring, reluctant local authorities. We need the security of knowing that these changes cannot be made without discussion and negotiation, that we are not at the mercy of those with access to grind, and that all professional associations are represented equitably. The current machinery, the Scottish Negotiating Committee for Teachers, comprises representatives from Scottish Government, local authorities and teachers' unions. Their constitution can only be changed by members, but when within one of the three parties, the teachers' side, one organisation holds all the cards, it becomes almost impossible to move any changes forward. Even if all the other representatives on the teachers' side voted for change, the majority would still be unsurpassable. Add to this the fact that the teachers' side joint chair has his office in the offices of the EIS because he is a member, and that they appear to be consulted ahead of others, does not make for the most open, transparent and accountable negotiations. Any privilege gained by numbers should not be regarded as giving anyone carte blanche. We need a body who can hold their heads high, knowing they are open, transparent and fully accountable to all those who rely on them. We need a body whose constitution is sufficiently flexible to allow for changes. Without such a framework, we will find ourselves in the same situation again and again, and each time this happens, those doing the job in the classroom will be left worrying and wondering what the outcome will be. We need to protect our members. We need to deliver what they are looking for: security and certainty in employment and salary terms. If the current situation continues, it will only be a matter of time before someone decides enough is enough and councils begin to plough ahead with the changes because they know they can. Imagine trying to represent the interests of members in 32 local authorities spread over a large geographic area where each and every one might do their own thing and apply the bits that suit them best. Imagine being a teacher in that climate. It's a scenario that doesn't bear thinking about. The Concordat which Scottish councils entered into with Scottish Government in 2008 does appear to be historic. But as I said at that time, it may well prove to be historic for all the wrong reasons. We deserve better from our employers and our government. I urge you to support this motion.